regarding our lawmakers, like, stop following what's happening out there. We voted you in for a certain reason. Don't follow. When are you going to lead?
Right.
Be leaders. That's what we voted you in there for. And we're different. Stop comparing us to what's happening on the continent, because we're very, very different. We have our officers that work in the areas that they live in. So there's a vested interest for them to take care of their community.
Yeah.
Right. And again, we're on an island. We talked about this earlier before this podcast. This island's so small. It's the usual questions we ask. Hey, where you from? What high school you went? What's your family names? And somehow the 6th degree of separations ends up too. Very, very different.
Yay, we're back from the ocean to the sky, from Mauka to Makai. This is Hawaii Real. Thank you all for joining. Today I have with me Don Faumuina, former head coach of Damien Memorial High School volleyball, women's volleyball, and he is the state board secretary for SHOPO, the state of Hawaii
Organization of Police Officers.
Organization of Police Officers. I always knew SHOPO, just had to put that together.
Yeah.
And a Farrington grad.
Go Govs.
Go Govs. Go Govs. But he's also in more than that. He does wedding entertainment. So I do wedding entertainment. And he's a co-owner for Time for Change. And for that is a professional development workshop that helps a wide variety of people, but namely also helps police officers become a little bit more professional. And we were talking, he loves to surf. The internet.
That's right.
He loves to surf the internet. So here we go. Hawaii Real. Don, thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks for having me, bro. I appreciate it, man. This is awesome. Yeah.
All right. So Time for Change.
Yeah.
Policing is like a huge thing nationwide right now. And, you're on social media, kind of a lot. You like
small guy.
Small guy.
Yeah.
Not in a trolly way, right? Not a troll, but very professional. But you also, the Time for Change. Can you delve into that and just talk about how you can blend in current policing and the changes that are going to be happening with like your professional view from the Time for Change point of view?
Yeah, Time for Change is a professional development company that myself and another officer, Taylor Ho P, we put together, just 2 local guys from Kalihi, high school diploma. Just decide to take a whole bunch of training that we learned from the department as well as on our own side, personally, to come up with the curriculum, make it more local so that the people can kind of, where they can relate to. And really our whole idea behind it was to offer it to our police officers. There's no secret. Policing has changed. Yeah. I've been in the department for 20 years. I'm so happy and blessed that I've been part of something so special that I always wanted to do. But it's no secret, given the climate change in terms of how policing are now, things are different. It's not like how before, because there's cameras all over the place. Everyone has a camera, everyone has a phone, right? And so just changing the mindset and skill set of our officers, not saying it's bad, it's just a different approach.
Yeah, you can always make it better.
Always. You can always make everything, if we're not growing, we're dying. Yeah. And so, infusing our Time for Change philosophy with our officers. Number one, it's no secret. You ask anyone out in the public how they're last dealing with police, you'll get, and it's a reality. It's no secret that most of them, it's been a negative interaction. And it could be a myriad of different things, right? They don't tell the entire story, but most of the reactions or comments I get from people is, got pulled over by an officer. He or she was not nice. Hey, I get it. I understand. And so infusing our philosophy of Time for Change, or, mindset, skill set equals jet set, just giving them a different perspective in terms of how do we deal with the public a certain way. We still can be assertive. And in no way, I'm not trying to be like, hey, be this certain person, or kind of like how a certain demographic wants our officers to be more, social worker type. We're still going to have that warrior/guardian mentality, but at the same time, we still got to infuse the aloha. I think the aloha spirit has dwindled greatly, and due to many things, and part of it is having the internet and social media, but just changing the fact that we can do things a little bit more different. Again, just improving on police work.
Yeah, you brought up like policing is changing, and the big part about changing here in Hawaii, especially, is the body cameras, and people having cell phone cameras and filming officers and everything like that, right? I was always of the opinion, because I was a training officer for a while, that if people put their camera on you, that's your audition. Yeah. That's not the time for you to be an a-hole or make trouble or turn off the camera or put your hand in front of the camera. No. That's the time for you as a police officer to put on your best face, your most professional attitude, and go out there and show them, the people who are watching you, that you belong in that job. Yeah. And you belong in that position.
Yeah, absolutely. District 1 was the pilot program for the department when the cameras came out. And again, like with anything, something new, change can be a difficult thing. But I can tell you, when I came to D1 out on patrol and had the camera, I can honestly say that it's actually helped our officers more than it worked against them. For example, we went to a call, it's an abuse call. And as soon as I got there, I think it was the third officer that arrived to the scene, and you show up and it was very, very chaotic. And so I get there trying to find out who's who, and people are yelling. And I get there, my camera's on, and this auntie comes right up to my face, probably about this close with her camera, her phone, and saying, "I just want to let you know I'm recording you, so you better watch what you say." Right? And I said, "Okay, that's awesome, auntie. I just want to let you know, the moment I stepped out of my car, see this thing right here?" And I'm pointing to my body-worn camera. So it's been recording you ever since I walked in the doors. And then her whole ano changed. Her attitude, everything. She's like, "Oh." And then she backed off the whole entire time. And the camera works really, really good. I think for our officers, you have those that like to do things a certain way, and they've been doing it for many, many years. It allows them to keep them in check. And, also accountability for our officers as well as the public. The camera will beep every couple minutes, and it's to remind you that it's there and it's on. And again, just keeping the accountability to make sure that we are professional at all times. And I'm the type of person that when I speak to people, I'm just going to be the way that I am. Again, treating them with aloha, unless they give me a reason not to. I'm not afraid to yell at them and do what I need to do, because I can justify it, because the camera tells me, it'll show, and so I like the camera, despite a lot of people, maybe our officers may think otherwise, but I think it works really, really well for us, because it protects us. And then it gives the officer, after they're done, at the scene and they go back, they can actually replay it and then look at it and say, "Oh yeah, I forgot about this," and put that in the report. And that way it stays consistent in their report writing.
Yeah, wasn't there some defense attorneys or some organizations not wanting officers to replay their body-worn footage before they write the report? Yeah. I'm like, that defeats the purpose. You want the officer to write a accurate report, and if he has to look through his body-worn camera to get that accurate report, by all means, do it. Let him do it.
Yeah, and that's the crazy part, is you'll have this group of people that want it a certain way, but only if it fits their narrative.
Correct.
Right? Like, okay, we want the camera, but you can't replay it. Like, how are we going to give you an accurate report? Because there's so many things going on. And I've said this many times to our lawmakers, or even on social media. When I'm on social media and you have the naysayers saying all these and accusing corruption of the department and everything, my response many times is, "Hey, do it right along with me. Come see it from our perspective and see what it looks like." Or, you know what? We're typing back and forth and you can't hear the emotions behind it. And maybe sometimes reading a text or a message can be misconstrued in different ways. Let me give you a call. Well, let's just talk story. I know I've done that many times, and I probably messaged about maybe 20 or 30 people online, and I probably got 2 that actually called me. The rest, crickets, so it is what it is.
Yeah, I mean, on social media, people are so willing to like type in their comments and type in, plug in links and stuff for you to follow. And it's like, no, let's just talk. I'll call you. Let's have a conversation.
I think that's the one difficult part about people online, is that, they lack the interaction. Just sit there. We're talking story. I'm going to be very respectful and I'm very straight up with them and tell them, "Hey, look, let's just have a conversation with aloha, with respect. You can disagree with me, but I just want to hear your voice. Let's just talk story and see where it goes. Oh, no, I'm busy. I can't right now." But then they're still texting me. So I don't like, okay, whatever. This conversation's over. I'm not going to push it anymore. So.
Yeah. And that's like one of the biggest divisive features of modern day politics, and, especially with the news media and stuff, is that people from one side or the other, they're just not willing to talk to people who have a different mindset or different thought process. And it's like when you stop talking to people that think differently from you, you stop your growth, and your empathy just kind of tanks, because you can't see things from other people's point of view, or you're not listening to other people's point of view as to why they think that way.
Yeah, I agree. And so many times people, they don't listen. They actually just wait to respond. So they're not even listening to the content or even what you're sharing, and they're just waiting for you to shut up so they can respond and just prove their point. So many people would rather be right than happy.
Yeah, and I'm like, dude, I'm so willing to like be proven wrong and see things from a different point of view. I'm so ready and willing to do that. I'm willing to talk to people that have a liberal mindset. I'm really willing to talk to people that have a conservative mindset. I like to think I'm kind of in the middle, because I have left-leaning thoughts and I have right-leaning thoughts. Yeah. I don't gravitate towards any one side, but I like that conversation. And when people stop having that conversation and don't want to talk to like anybody, maybe liberal, that doesn't want to talk to conservative, or doesn't want to have a friend who's conservative, okay, that's wrong.
Yeah, where they just refuse no matter what. Yeah. Whatever way they see it, they're just going to say, no, this is what I'm going to push. I don't care what you say, but this is, I've made up my mind. How can you have a fair conversation if it's just one-sided,
Yeah.
And many times it happens like that. It's so unfortunate,
What else are you doing these days besides surfing the internet and being a troll on the internet?
I do all the time. I feel this sense of responsibility. There's so many people out there that have, just different views of how policing is, and how police officers are and what they think. Many of them will watch and, again, drink the Kool-Aid of what the media narrative pushes out there, and I like to say, hey, look, if I can change just a few people and just give them a different perspective, they don't have to agree with me, but just saying, hey, you know what? I never thought of it that way. Mm-hmm. Hey, you know what? You have something there, or even just educating them and say, hey, look, you don't have to be a cop. You don't have to go through the police academy. However, there are different programs that is allotted for you, the citizens, such as our Citizens Patrol Academy. It's like a 12, 13-week program where citizens from all different walks of life come to our, to our station. You sign up, you go through the background checks, and once all that's done, you go through pretty much a soft version of what our recruit will go through, because they'll go to the academy, they'll shoot, they'll drive our fleet vehicles, they learn the laws, search and seizure, all these different things. They get to meet our officers out there. They also do a ride along. And so I've spoken to many of those that have graduated and actually had really, really positive things to say and open up their minds, of how policing is, and many of them didn't agree, but they say, hey, you know what? I can see, why you do the things you guys do, and I commend you guys for that.
Did they do scenarios in that?
I'm not sure if they do scenarios.
Because I remember going through the academy, like scenarios was the scariest part.
Of course,
because you don't know what's going to happen, and sometimes you kind of do know what the scenario is going to be, but it's still kind of scary.
It is,
and it's a protected environment.
Of course, yeah.
It pales in comparison to what happens on the street. What happens when you get on the road?
Yeah,
you really don't know what's going on.
Right, and that's again another thing that our community members don't know. Is that there's so many different, hours and hours of training where you're at the academy. I remember having a conversation with somebody. I posted something and it was funny because they're like, okay, so you have about 1,000 hours of training at the academy, which equates to about 5.5, 6 months. But then we have, on the professional side, there's a professional barber that has a minimum of 1,500 hours that they got to go through. So you're saying that, our barbers, more qualified, like how come their training is way more than you as just a police officer, And so my response was, well, first of all, I'm a little offended because you're comparing me to a professional barber, because not all professional barbers will get the right haircut, and then just going through training is just one of many things, because after the academy, there's so many other layers of training after that.
How the public doesn't necessarily perceive what happens in a police officer's job, right?
Yeah.
But then just now that provision passed in legislature.
Yeah, the House Bill 285.
House Bill 285. Yeah. What is the deal with that?
So basically, House Bill 285, the bill encompasses where they want to release our officer's name. Well, prior to the HB 285, the law currently stands as if an officer gets arrested and or terminated, then the name becomes public record.
Oh, yeah, it goes in the news.
Right,
yeah.
right. So they want to release everything prior to that. So from a 1-day suspension, where it could be something administrative where it's late reports or been coming into work late and you get suspended for it, they want to release that. The issue behind 285, it circumvents our due process.
Yeah.
So it doesn't allow us to go through our due process like everybody else and just put us out there and then have the union come in and grieve it and go through that. And then once it's cleared, we're like, okay, you know what? We'll give you your day back. But by that time, the damage has already been done.
Are the names out to the public or are they out to like the legislature?
It's out to the public. Anybody can get it. Someone homeless outside can come in and request it, and you're mandated to
for getting suspended for coming to work late, or something,
late reports or something, and not even criminal. It's more administrative side. Yeah,
right.
Yeah, we got to release the names
because like the criminal stuff, like you said before, obviously is going to get posted if you get criminal charges brought against you or you're arrested.
Correct.
Arrest records, they're public information, anyways.
Yes.
And the news media pretty much jumps on that, right? Anytime a HPD officer gets arrested, it goes on the news, and rightly so, right? Yeah. I'm not saying we shouldn't do that. I'm saying, hold cops accountable. That's fine.
Absolutely.
But at the same time, if you're going to, post the names of police officers that were suspended for a day for an administrative thing that has probably nothing to do with their interactions with the public.
Right.
What are you telling those officers now?
Right.
What are you telling those supervisors? Like, are the supervisors are they going to be suspending people for those infractions anymore?
Yeah. And so our supervisors, they're allowed to suspend their subordinates without even, they have that authority to do so. The unfortunate thing is they release these names, and it's, for example, Officer Faumuina, 1-day suspension, and they don't even give the reason why. That name, my name goes out. It's out in the public. You have maybe a group of people that just hate cops for whatever reason.
No, those don't exist. What are you talking about?
Yeah, I don't know who these people are. Right, and they start talking story about it in their household, and then they realize, hey, isn't that that's your classmate? That's his dad. Like, yeah. See, look, they're all corrupt. And then that boy goes to school, sees my son, and said, hey, I heard we were talking about your dad. He's on the news. His name came out. Oh, your dad's a dirty cop. See, they're all corrupted. And so, and then that starts a whole, bullying, cyberbullying. And so it goes way beyond than just the name of the officer. It affects the family members. Yeah. And so that was one of the reasons where SHOPO came in and opposed the bill amongst other different reasons. Yeah.
Is there anything comparable in other organizations, other professionals?
Nope. Everyone, I think, from what I understand, that all city employees all fall under that same rule. The only difference with us is they skip the due process, and so they just let our names out because our city employees will go through, through the investigation, through all of that, and then the decision is made, and then it can be released. But they want to circumvent that part and just put our names out to the public. Yeah. So the bill passed. Yeah, if people are wondering, hey, how can we help? It's too late. The bill passed already. It went to the Senate. They voted overwhelmingly. I think the vote was 20-4 or something like that.
Okay, so should we go back to releasing names of DUI arrests?
I think so.
Yeah,
right, because they did it in the past.
Because we were doing that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Honolulu was doing that, and then we stopped because
politicians
were getting arrested.
Yeah. And then
their names are going out.
Yeah, the shame and the embarrassment, and so they stopped it.
Yeah, I mean, if we want transparency, we should have transparency.
Absolutely.
Correct? Yeah.
Absolutely. I think you want to talk about transparency when they did the bill, it happened when we I think it was last week Monday when we went and did the rally. The prior week Thursday is when they brought the bill out. They didn't give any public testimony. Obvious reason because of COVID, but you can do it online. You can go through, do like a Zoom conference and have the public and the members, share their reasons why they oppose the bill. So they circumvented that. And so they didn't even allow that. They didn't even give the 48-hour notice or all these different things. When a bill goes through, there's a process that they have to go through. And all of that just got backdoored, and they just ran with it, and they was able to push it. And so for many years, this bill's been around. It started off as 92F back in the 90s. I think 1995. In fact, SHOPO did a video about it way back then, and we were able to stop it all these years. But given the way the nation is with policing, the lawmakers felt like if there's any time to strike right now while the iron's hot, this is the time to do it.
Yeah, and lawmakers need to watch out, because you're going to end up having a profession that nobody wants to be a part of.
We're already feeling it.
Right.
Yeah.
NYPD is showing record numbers of retirees, right? And in fact, they're trying to limit how many people retire day to day, because their retirement system is being overwhelmed.
And cutting their budget. $1 billion.
Right.
Cutting their police budget. Yeah, literally tying their hands.
Yeah, I mean, that's the biggest police department in the world.
I believe so, yeah.
It's huge.
Yeah.
And they do a lot of anti-terrorism stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I don't know. I mean, it's NYPD. It's huge. There's been a number of movies and TV shows based upon that police department.
Yeah.
Good and bad. I love Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
Yeah. Blue Bloods.
Yeah. But, to cut $1 billion, I have to ask, like, what the hell was their budget before?
Yeah. Crazy. Well, yeah, look, the patrol officers alone is like, what, 40,000 plus? Just out there.
Yeah, that's a lot of that.
And that's a separate union. And then you have the sergeants and detectives with, I believe, 5,500 plus.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a separate union. So it's such a huge department.
And that's just NYPD. That's
just NYPD.
That's not what is the other departments there? The Port Authority?
Yeah, Port Authority.
Yeah, that's completely separate.
Yeah. Yeah. And then you have the plainclothes unit. They all disbanded them.
And then the shootings skyrocketed.
Yeah, like 200%.
Yeah.
The very next couple of days. Crazy. I mean, I don't know what these lawmakers are thinking, what they're doing. And I made comments online, I think I posted something regarding our lawmakers, like, stop following what's happening out there. We voted you in for a certain reason. Don't follow. When are you going to lead?
Right.
Be leaders. That's what we voted you in there for. And we're different. Stop comparing us to what's happening on the continent, because we're very, very different. We have our officers that work in the areas that they live in. So
Mm-hmm.
there's a vested interest for them to take care of their community.
Yep.
Right. And again, we're on an island. We talked about this earlier before this podcast. This island's so small. It's the usual questions we ask. Hey, where you from? What high school you went? What's your family names? And somehow the 6th degree of separations ends up too. Very different. Yeah.
Yeah, the degrees of knowing someone here in Hawaii is very, very small.
Very.
And, I would contend that a lot of people don't realize that they know someone who's actually related to a police officer or is a police officer, and they just don't know that.
Yeah, I remember pulling somebody over, and I didn't know who that person was, and, female driver screaming, just yelling at me, and I was like, lady, like, you're on your phone, and you ran the red light, and you almost hit that person. This is why I'm pulling you over. Can you see the reason? And just yelling, screaming. But after it was done, I think a couple weeks later, we had a family party, and guess who I ran into? That same female lady. And we find out, she's related to my wife's family. Like, what? Right? So imagine the embarrassment.
Did you call her out?
I did.
Hey, I tagged you.
I was like, hey, auntie, you remember me? And she was like, I was trying to avoid you, small guy. And I said, don't worry about it. It's all good. Like, that's just between me and you. That's work. Leave it there. Pow. You never know.
Yeah. One of the things I did learn is that when I was on my time on the road is that people have bad days. You pull people over and they're just screaming, or they're totally frustrated, or, in some instances they're bawling and crying. And it's like, okay, I just pulled you over. I know it's not because of what I did. Yeah. Can we talk about why you're being so emotional? Why, what is really frustrating? A lot of that happened with like domestic violence calls. You get there and the guys, they're fighting, arguing, bickering, maybe some hitting, and, they're going off, and then you show up, and they all of a sudden the energy turns towards the police officers that show up.
Yeah.
And it's like, from the police officer's point of view, it's like, you can't take that personally. You have to be, you have to be the vacuum for them to vent at, and just take it all in. Not personally. They just want to vent and yell at you and yell at you. Take it. Let them have their 30 seconds to a minute of, active aggression, just not active aggression, but aggressively, talking at you. And then die down and say, okay, dude, I just showed up. I know you're frustrated. Let's talk about what's going on. Tell me what's going on. I'm here to, if you want to vent, if you want to yell at me, go yell. If you hate police, go ahead, yell. I'll sit here and I'll listen to it, and then we'll talk about it. Yeah. And, it deflates the situation, right? It deflates the person. It lets them get that energy out. And then you can actually start to have a regular conversation with the person. And at the end, almost every single time, at the end, the person's like, officer, I'm so sorry. I was just frustrated. I'm like, yeah, dude, I totally understand. I get frustrated too. And if you need someone to vent the frustration and listen to you, we're here for that too.
Yeah. And sometimes our officers will sometimes take it personally.
Yes. So this is a lesson more for police officers watching this.
Yeah.
Don't take it personally. You got to be a punching bag sometimes, not, in a metaphorical sense. Like, people are going to want to vent. Let them vent at you. Be the counselor.
Yeah.
Police officers, one of the things I would always tell people that I was training is being a police officer, and this is not mainstream thought process, but being a police officer is the biggest acting gig in the world.
Yeah.
You have to put on so many different faces on a day-to-day basis. And some of those faces, some of those characters that you have to put on, you don't even know that you have to put that character on until you arrive to the scene.
Yeah.
And, you have to be, the counselor. You have to be the parent. You have to be the big brother, your big sister.
Sometimes you got to be the pastor.
Sometimes you have to be the pastor. Sometimes you have to be the medic.
Yeah.
Sometimes you have to be a firefighter.
Yeah.
I've run into burning houses.
Yeah. Sometimes you're the referee.
Sometimes you're the referee.
And sometimes you're the parent.
Yeah. And sometimes you got to be the asshole.
Yeah.
And sometimes you got to be super nice.
Yeah.
And
and again, every way to try and diffuse the situation.
Right.
And I think, and I speak for the district I work in. I'm very proud to say that we've gone to several of these type of situations, and it's usually our senior officers will kind of be the one to dictate on how things are going. And there have been times I've seen, my own beat partners come in, and then they meet them with that same aggressive energy. And there's been a few times where I'll just jump in and kind of deflect it and start talking to them. And it gives that officer a time like, oh, crap. Yeah. Hey, thanks for covering me. Because they were getting on that deep end where it's going to go from bad to worse, and just take over. And then recognizing something like that, And again, that's what makes us very different from everybody else, where we can recognize that, get in, take over, diffuse the situation. And, it's like what you said at the end. They're like, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to yell at you or swear at you. And it's like, it has nothing to do with me, right? We go there. We get every call we respond to is a crisis call. As Manini, as stupid as it that you would think it is, you show up and neighbors complaining because the TV's too loud, right? It's a crisis for them, And so many times, like, did you go over and just ask them to turn on the TV? Oh no, I don't want to talk to them.
Yeah,
it's like, okay.
So you call the cops on them instead of going over and talking to your neighbor.
Yeah.
What's the craziest call you ever had, or one of the craziest?
I can tell you one of the funniest calls that I responded to. We get there, noise complaint. It's like, caller doesn't want to say anything. They just want an officer, and then she'll explain. And we get there, and lady's talking, and you know how it is. Officers will find out in like less than 10 seconds the kind of person we're dealing with, if they're kind of cuckoo or not. She's like, there's this bird in the back. I'm not sure what kind of bird it is, but the reason why I called is making noise, and I want to know what kind of bird it is. So my response was, it's a big bird. Yeah, she didn't like that answer. Yeah, so I think she wrote a complaint, and they just kind of dismissed it. Like, you really serious, lady? We did our best. Like, I don't know what kind of bird it is, but she got upset at us. Like,
it's a big bird.
It's a big bird. That's the first thing came to my mind. I was like, I don't know, lady. Yeah, you may want to ask Oscar or Bert or Ernie. I don't know.
Oh,
yeah. So, I don't know, bro. Yeah.
People are funny.
People are interesting. They're very interesting. Again, they when dealing with crisis, they're not all there. What the first reaction is, call 911, right? Call 911. I think Malcolm shared some statistics in terms of calls for service, and I'm not sure if it's the 2019 numbers or 2018, but calls for service for just HPD calls was little over 610,000 calls. Out of those calls, we had 10 use of force complaints. Out of the 10 use of force complaints, 3 of them were involved disciplinary actions. So when the public talks about the corruption and they talk about police brutality and stuff, you look at 3 disciplinary actions where our officers were arrested and they lost their jobs. Out of 610,000 calls, I think that's a pretty good number that we can do that. No one's perfect, right? Our department's not perfect. Our officers aren't perfect, but we can do things to improve it and make it better. You look at those numbers, very, very, it's promising compared to what's happening out on the continent.
Yeah, no, those are great numbers.
Yeah.
In any semblance of the way, a fraction of a percent.
Yeah.
All right, so we're going to change the dynamic of the conversation a little bit now. So you were a former head coach at Damien Memorial for women's volleyball.
Yeah, for the girls program.
Right. Big topic nowadays is transgender athletes playing in women's sports.
Yes.
What are your thoughts on that?
I have big time reservations of transgender athletes.
Really?
I mean,
And by transgender, we're talking mainly people who are born as a male, grown up as a male, and have transgendered into a female.
Right.
Quote unquote.
Yeah.
Because they identify as a female.
Correct.
But then now they're trying to and in a lot of places succeeding in playing with female athletes.
Yes. Yeah. So from what I understand, from what I know, on the ILH side, there hasn't been any transgender athletes that's been playing currently. But on the OA side, the public school side, there actually are a few. But there's one particularly that I know of course, that's playing volleyball. And I disagree with that.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's
still
crazy.
Playing with females, and his DNA, everything, is still a boy.
Right, because you're taking away the rights, because Title IX came about because women needed separate sports from men, because men biologically, they're just stronger, faster than females. So females needed their own separated sports.
Yes.
Hence Title IX.
Yeah.
Right, and that affects high schools and college sports, right? Mm-hmm. But now there's transgender athletes who now identify as female playing with females, even though they're born, raised, grew up a male. And they're biologically a male.
Yeah.
And that's crazy.
Yeah, because there's a disadvantage to that.
A huge disadvantage. Yeah. It is not even fair. And you have these transgender athletes that are playing in female sports and dominating.
Yeah,
and
big time.
Like track and field, dominating. It's like, the fastest female time for like the 100 meters Olympic times, I think the fastest the world record for female athlete is, I forget what the time was, but I was reading an article that said like there were over 400 high school boys that ran that time or less.
Yeah.
And this is the females world championship time. And you have high school boys doing that or better.
Yeah. And again, the argument is look at their DNA. Again, you cannot compare the two, and then, the disparity and then the fairness for our female athletes.
Right. You're basically taking away the rights of female athletes to compete, get scholarships. And, there's a whole economy behind it, right?
Yeah.
Because, if they don't qualify because you have transgender athletes running faster than they are, now these females aren't qualifying for, the next tournament or the next, race and meets and stuff like that. And now they're losing out on scholarship opportunities.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I go back to about this OA athlete, this boy that's playing on this girls volleyball team, because I actually talked to one of the coaches and said, why isn't he playing on the boys' side? Mm-hmm. And his response was, it's because he didn't make the team. Right? So you have him go up against other boys, which he should be, and he doesn't make the team, but then identifies himself as a female and pushes that agenda, and they allow it, and now he's on the girls' team, which is a total disadvantage against the other female athletes that's across the net playing against him.
And to be clear, we're not taking away from being transgender in the workplace or professionally or in, any lifestyle.
Right.
We just don't want to take away from our female athletes.
Yeah.
That's the big thing. Because there is transgender officers in the Honolulu Police Department.
Yeah. Yeah. And even that, the department had to make accommodations to fit that transgender officer to make sure that that person feels comfortable. Training where our officers have to realize, hey, again, they're right. This is kind of how things are, and we should be conforming, or that's just how training is, and just understanding and respecting that person's right to as well.
Right, and there's nothing wrong with that.
No, nothing wrong. Nothing wrong. Absolutely.
That's not the conversation that we're having about sports.
Yeah.
Because when you come to competing in sports, man, no.
Yeah, I would disagree on that. Especially you have like a transgender athlete that's doing MMA or boxing.
Oh, that's retarded. Like, you can't do that.
There's no way. Yeah.
A male would just demolish a female. The best female mixed martial artists would have trouble fighting a mediocre male.
Yeah.
Like, it's just not.
You
just can't.
Unless she's Samoan. Nah, I'm just kidding. No, I don't know. But no, you're right though. You're absolutely right, and I agree with you. Like, it's just, you cannot compare between the two,
right?
Because
you just look at like the top professional female athletes, whether it be the WNBA, like the WNBA.
Yeah.
I would take some of the good high school men's basketball teams against any WNBA team.
Yeah,
hands down. And you're talking about high school boys being better than professional female athletes. Yeah. Yes, that's how it is. That's biology.
Yeah.
So you start putting transgender. I mean, can you imagine Shaquille O'Neal in the WNBA because he was transgender?
Yeah.
Like, that'd be dumb.
Yeah.
Right?
And he'd make a really ugly female, but that's okay. That's something different. But yeah, you look at WNBA, if I go back in my limited knowledge of WNBA players, if you can name, and again, it's just I guess it's just me comparing female athletes that can get up and dunk a basketball. In terms of skills and right, I can only remember one. It's Lisa Leslie. I don't know if any other females, or maybe, I'm sure there are, but compared to on the men's side, right, you have these young boys, like you say, in high school, just getting up and
16, 17, 18-year-old boys are able to physically do better at basketball than the professional women in WNBA.
40, 45-inch verticals,
Yeah. I know it's controversial, but it's true. Sorry. It shouldn't be controversial, right? It should just, this is fact. This is true. There's no controversy about it. If you disagree, I don't know why you disagree.
Yeah. It's just facts. It's just how it is.
Thanks, sorry. And again, not talking about like females in the military or anything like that, because that's fine. A female can shoot a rifle just as good as a male.
Yeah.
Can a female carry the load that a male can carry? Well, maybe some can, some can't.
Yeah.
That's kind of different. Female fighter pilots.
Yeah.
Good.
Mm-hmm.
I agree with, female fighter pilots. Fighter pilots are, not part of Title IX.
Yeah.
They are highly educated, highly intelligent, have to have quick reflexes, a slew of knowledge and quick thinking.
Mm-hmm.
So male and female can do that, no problem.
Yeah.
But when you're talking about physical sports that they're competing against, and this is not chess.
Yeah.
Can't do it. Like volleyball, the women's net is lower, right?
Way lower compared to the boys.
It's like, why?
Yeah.
Why is the women's net lower?
Yeah. Yeah. It's there for a reason, and, as a volleyball coach, there have been times, there's nothing a girls' volleyball team relishes is when they play against their coaches, especially if all their coaches are males.
Yeah.
Right. Then you go in that boys versus girls, competitiveness, and
not even in shape top athlete males. Like you're the beer belly coaches.
Right here. Right here. Yeah. Me and my entire coaching staff, if you look at us, you're like, wait, you guys are volleyball coaches? Because you look like the offensive line.
Well, your coaches, not players, right?
Yeah. So, we'll play them, and we'll still beat them. I mean, aside from the knowledge and skills that we have, but again, DNA wise, we're much faster. we run a 2-man passing scheme that can cover the entire court, where most of the time, we will run a three scheme passing, for our girls. It just depends, but we can cover the court faster, quicker. We can cover more ground.
So for anybody out there, if this is a controversial topic, if you have a daughter that is an athlete, it's probably not too much of a controversial topic anymore. It's probably like, nope, I want my daughter to compete.
Yeah.
Not against boys. I want her to compete against other females so she has the same opportunities.
Yes.
Because there is an economy behind it, right?
Yep.
Scholarships.
Big time.
Yeah. There is an economy behind it.
Yeah.
So you're talking about losing out money because boys are allowed to compete.
Yeah. Money, opportunity. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So only transgender for sports.
Yeah. Are there sports out there that there could be? I mean, you have co-ed sports.
Yeah.
Track and field had was it in the Olympics where they had a mixed relay race? I think it was like 2 males, 2 females.
Okay.
Can you imagine transgender that? Well, you'd have 4 males.
Yeah.
Like there wouldn't be any females.
Nope.
Like that kind of defeats the purpose of the mixed.
Yeah.
mixed.
Totally.
So you can't have that. Yeah. And like in the past, like in the 80s and stuff, weren't the Russians or something having like male athletes, male weightlifters who were transgender, and they were like, they lost their medals because they found out that they were male.
Yeah. When you got these females pushing all this big, huge amount of massive weights, and you can see their mustache poking out, and like, hey, let's talk about this. There's something sneaky about this.
Yeah, there was this transgender weightlifter that, as a female, lifted like far more, like broke the world's record for like a deadlift. And it's like, dude, you're a guy.
Yeah.
You're not a female.
Yeah.
Sorry. That doesn't count.
Yeah. And, it's a topic I've had this discussion in our family. So I have 2 boys. My wife's a school teacher. And so the topic of transgender, fairness, equality, and so my son was 18 at the time, very verbal, very vocal, likes to, if he actually put some effort in it, he'd be a great attorney. But, he'll do the minimum, and that's just how he operates. But I remember him and my wife going into this conversation, and where my wife was, for transgenders, competing, and my son, was saying, I don't think it's fair. He goes, yeah, but, this boy identifies himself as a female. And so my son flips the script and says, okay, so from here on, I'm going to identify myself as African-American. And so my wife was, well, you can't. He goes, well, why not? Why is it okay for that person and not for me? He's, in fact, I'm going to change my name. And then they got, and so it was funny because I think she got stomped. And so mom, being mom, the mother, only response was, get to your room before I lick you. And so there's the conversation. He walks out. He's like, yeah. I can't help you there. I'm not going to get into this.
Well, I don't identify as your son, so you can't lick me anymore.
Yeah.
Oh, Sasa's come
on.
Right there.
That. Don't forget, we Polynesian. So yeah, even if you're not my son, you're still going to get lickings.
Yeah. The slippers fly.
That's it.
Fly nice, man. They need to make slippers that are more like aerodynamics.
Yeah.
Flying them.
Yeah. Anything you get your hands on, I'll beat up with all kinds of stuff. Yeah. But I think I turned out normal. Yeah. Ooh. So.
Yeah, pretty normal.
Yeah.
You see all these kids in, burning down Seattle and Portland and stuff. I was like, you guys weren't licked as kids. That's the problem.
Yeah. You see them blocking. I mean, if you're on the freeway, I'm going to say it, you deserve to get banged. Like the freeways for cars. That's why you walk on the sidewalk.
And we've had like protests where they get the permit and they close down the freeway. Mm-hmm. That's different.
Totally different.
If you're
totally different.
Legitimately closing down the freeway to have a protest, fine.
Yeah.
Do it through proper channels and whatnot.
Right.
If you're just kind of walking out there in traffic and traffic's coming by at a high rate of speed, you might get hit, and it will be your fault because that's not a pedestrian area. Mm-hmm. The one in Seattle.
Mm-hmm.
Was the guy drunk?
I'm not sure. Yeah.
But it was like one car coming through, and like I don't know if he didn't see people or what, but yeah, just totally drove through the crowd of people, and it was like it was an African American driver, right? So. It was just someone not paying attention to the road and people being on the road when they weren't supposed to be on the road.
I mean, and then you look at, speaking of protesters, I can't remember what city it is. I think I just read this in the news where they locked the officers in their precinct for like 17 hours.
Yeah. That's...
Yeah.
And it was 7 hours?
Or 7 hours or something. But it was a long time.
Yeah.
For several hours.
Tied the door, changed the doors closed and surrounded the police precinct
Yeah.
and wouldn't let them out and wouldn't let people respond to it. It's like, I don't know if that would happen here, guys. Don't try that.
Yeah. City officials
might
allow
not
them.
like.
Yeah, but it's not going to happen here. There's no way.
I don't know if our fellow brother and sister officers would allow that to happen.
They wouldn't.
Irregardless of city council or whatever.
Well, and that's
a safety issue.
And the great thing about, our current chief, she's been very vocal about, police reform. No, we're not going to have a police reform because we're not like how it's going on out there on the mainland.
Well, I think
different,
I'm not scared to say police reform. I think what people fail to see is that we are constantly reforming.
Always.
Like the body cameras, the transparency, bringing in Chief Ballard. That's all part of consistent reform that we're constantly doing. But we're driving a big container ship. We're not driving a little speedboat. Yeah. When you turn that wheel, it takes some time to turn.
Oh, yeah.
You're not going to make that left turn at a 90-degree angle.
Yeah.
Reform in this manner, if you really want it to stick and really want it to do really good for the community and good for, the city and people as a whole, it's going to take time.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think I was referring to reform where, everyone's saying defund them, take the funds away, give it to the social workers and have them go and respond, because this is what's going to happen. Social worker shows up, they get a call of a male that's naked, 6'5", 300 plus, sweating.
What you going to do? You're going to send an unarmed person after that guy?
You're going to send a social worker go and talk story with that person. And the moment that person punches that social worker in the face, they're going to realize, oh, yeah.
Or bites them, or pees on them, or shits on them. Like
spits on them.
That's what these crazy people do.
That's what they do.
Call the police.
Yeah. That's what they do. Like they don't realize that.
But then, that's not to take away a lot of the work that social workers could help.
They do great work.
They could supplement the police department. Absolutely. And I hope that comes to fruition. But to be realistic about it, there are tons of situations where, police officers are needed.
Yeah. Because usually, we'll go in and do the job, make the scene safe, and then our social workers can come in and do what they need to do.
Did the city give the calls for service on animal cruelty and barking dogs, crowing roosters to the Humane Society? Was that a thing? Because I think we were trying to get away from having police officers go to take care of roosters.
Yeah, I think
give that to like another division. See, that's good. Like that's the kind of things we want to see. You don't need to send a cop to go take care of a barking dog or crowing rooster.
Right, absolutely. We talk about changing things around, and definitely, you and I know Chief is constantly looking at how to improve things. Due to COVID and all these, you have our officers that aren't on the road, that are doing specialized programs out in the community that can't go and deal with the community. She's considering getting them out there on the road because, they're stagnant. They don't have their regular assignments, and so I think again, you talk about reform. That's part of it. And she's looking at different ways where we can get our officers out on patrol, get them to interact with the community, answer those calls for service that are out there. There's so many calls that come through for us, and we only can handle so much. Yeah.
Don, it's been good having you on,
brother,
man.
Such a pleasure, man. It's just, thank you. Yeah, it's just super, super cool.
All right. Yeah. Well, I'm glad you think so, man.
Thank you for all that you do, bro.
No, thank you. And again, everybody, Don Faumuina, Damien Memorial, Farrington,
Go Govs.
SHOPO.
Yes.
Yeah. Time for change. All right. As always, stay happy, Hawaii.